Hello, race fans. Welcome to another edition of the EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network. Actually, episode number 41, February the 19th, 2019. My name is Rob Howden, joined as always by David Cole. The event we will be reviewing today, the final round of the 2019 SuperKarts USA Winter Series, rounds 3 and 4 from AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex, presented by MG Tires. We'll work our way through the paddock pass. We'll go race report, and David and I will talk a lot about what we're going to be doing over the next month to 6 weeks. This week's show presented by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from providing a helping hand on a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklinkart.com. All right, David, we're going to jump in here with the overview, how we start all of our debrief podcasts. Again, it is the SuperKarts USA Winter Series rounds 3 and 4. I was down in Homestead. It was our dual weekend. We were using that hashtag, actually, hashtag dual weekend, because I was in Florida. You were in California. We'll do that a couple more times this year, as we do have a couple of conflicts with our partner series, where I'll be at one place and you'll be somewhere else. First and foremost, obviously, one of the big things to talk about was the weather. You know, the fact that it was pretty nice weather for us on Saturday. Stark contrast to what you guys had at COTA. I felt bad for you because I'm watching the video. I mean, I'm watching all your photos, and you know, as I'm working and we're posting stuff to Facebook, we can see what you're posting. When you were posting the morning stuff, all of a sudden, the rain came, and I just started to say, man, David's not going to be loving life out there.
Yeah, rain's not exactly a fun atmosphere to be in, but it does provide some great photos. So that's the flip side of it. So, you know, I would much rather be in the snow taking photos, because snow is easier to get off. You know, it's not soaking your body, making you feel cold, where snow, it's easy. I'm used to that. I hate rain.
Well, I will say this. You nailed out some fantastic photography. You're getting better and better at it. Obviously, you've been doing it for the last, ton of years, 10 years probably now, or maybe even more since you actually jumped behind the lens of the camera. But some really good shots there. And of course, you know, down to the SCUSA race, the Winter Series, they always work with Todd McCall and Ken Johnson from On Track Promotions. Their images, second to none all the time. Fantastic. Let's do the quick overview of the Winter Series. Final round, of course, the final 2 rounds of the series. Just a 2-weekend program for the Winter Tour. Knowing, I think last year when they launched it, knowing that they were going to have the Winter Nationals for the first week of March, there's no sense really to come back again a couple of weeks later and do a third round of the Winter program, even though that's kind of been the set number of races over the years. SCUSA going just for those 2 weekends, kind of I called it the unofficial spring training, although winter training would have been a better term. Essentially off-season training, get people dialed in for the Pro Tour, a chance to, especially for some of the younger drivers, to get out there, run against some higher-level competition, of course, before we head to Fontana and the Winter Nationals on the opening weekend of March. So again, SCUSA getting back to Florida for the second year. I talked all about the fact that it was SuperKarts USA, Don Janowski, Joe Janowski, Jim Early, who actually started the first Winter Tour program back in 1998, 1999. It's cool to see SCUSA come back. And of course, with any organization, they're trying to, they're a national organization. So to have that program in Florida, I think is key for them to expand away from their California base. One thing, David, about this particular weekend, I know you saw it, and we'll talk about it more in the paddock pass, but we ran the track in the reverse direction from the January event. Both events at Homestead this year. Last year was Homestead for the opener, Ocala for the second race. Both races at Homestead. The reverse direction, pretty interesting to say the least. I think you saw some of the shots. You were watching what I was doing. I was watching what you were doing, and you were messaging me asking about track limits. I'll get into that in the paddock pass, but yeah, you could see from the images that things were a little different going in the other direction.
Well, it's conducive to what the facility is. I mean, the facility there, and along with what we have at CalSpeed that weekend, it's a parking lot. There's no grass, there's no dirt. It's basically lines around the pavement marking where the circuit is, and it's very similar to what you see in some of the Formula One racetracks, where it's 30 to 40, 50 feet of pavement after the racing line, where the actual circuit is defined, and it's obviously something that we're going to be addressing in the Paddock Pass, but it's going to be something we're going to address in the future with the upcoming Winter Nationals coming up at Cal Speed. And just the way other circuits kind of handle this. GoPro Motorplex is another facility that has certain runoff areas that essentially take the kart 4 tires off the actual defined racing circuit.
Yeah. And that's an issue. That's, again, something that would be a perfect topic for a roundtable, or at least one of the roundtable topics, because you're right. And I'll get to that in a second in Paddock Pass. But as you mentioned, very similar to the Formula One track in Austin, right? Circuit of the Americas. All you ever hear about is track limit violations, because even in the final corner, you can roll way to the outside and get the other side of the curbing. And again, that's a topic we'll bring up later on, but definitely something that was worth discussing in the overview of this final round of the SCUSA Winter Series. Weather-wise, as I said, we did eventually get some rain. There was some rain overnight on Friday, so it was damp in the morning when the guys and girls were heading out for practice. Rain actually didn't come Saturday, but it did come on Sunday. We got hit pretty good right as we started the main events, the 206 drivers. And it's funny because it's like a small cell was coming in. You could see it starting to come in, and I think I mentioned on the broadcast, it looks like there's some rain coming in. I could see the dark clouds coming, and all of a sudden, boom. And it was probably about a 5-minute cell. That was about it. And it just absolutely downpoured on the 206 guys when they were out for their main. Joe Janowski wisely called the race red, brought the carts into the scales, put it on, essentially put us on hold for 10 minutes to wait for the cell to go through. We were all watching the radar. Once the cell had gone through, we got back to racing again. We put the micro Swift drivers who were on the grid, brought them out for their main, and then brought the 206 guys through the scales and put them back on the grid. And I'll tell you, very impressive for the micro Swift kids. Here we are in full wet conditions, and the driver's not ready for it. And who do we throw out? The youngest drivers in the entire program, and they performed so well. I was so impressed with the way they were able to get around, really no issues. A couple little spins, but otherwise, the micros did a great job in full wet conditions. As we do, David, in the overview all the time, we'll talk numbers. 185 drivers total, significantly down from the 234 that they started with on the opener. We'll go into some of the numbers. To be honest, we've done this for many years, David. You and I know this. From race to race to race, in a 3-race winter program, you're going to drop 10 to 15% off throughout that program. That's kind of really the thought process, knowing going into those races, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And it's, that's typical with really any series that you see, even during the summer months.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So, and the interesting thing about the numbers here, as I said, significantly off, right? So they drop almost 40, actually almost 50, right? 185 from 235. The interesting thing is that for majority of the categories, it was a regular drop off. Micro Swift, Mini Swift, both down by 2. X30 Master down by 5. Pro Shifter just 1. Master Shifter down by 2. Even the K100 Junior category, down by 6 from 18 to 12. That was bigger, but it really was the juniors and the seniors. And I wonder why, because obviously the opening round, everybody goes crazy. 56 drivers in junior, 54 in senior. We're opening things back up. We're running LCQs and split heats. This time we roll out, it's still good numbers. 46 in junior, 36 in senior. Junior drops 10 and senior drops 18. I wonder if some people just maybe were not happy because they didn't make the main event after the LCQ, whatever it may be. But again, the primary drop, other than what we would have expected being a second round of a winter program, even a summer program, as you said, it was that senior one. 18 driver drop in senior. That's pretty wild, to be honest.
It is. It's a big drop, but again, that's the thing with the winter series. It's not really necessarily something people are going to strive to do completely, unless you are one of those top 5 finishers, top 10 finishers from the first round or first couple of rounds or the first weekend. So there's really no sense to go back down there, less than a month later and do it all over again if you're just trying to prepare for the upcoming season. Some people, as you said, it's winter training. It's to provide the opportunity to one, maybe get away from the winter weather that's up north, or two, just to get back on the racetrack after maybe not being on the racetrack since 2018.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, David. I think you're hitting the nail on the head because, first and foremost, that first race of the year, a lot of guys haven't raced either from the Supernats. So count that to almost 2 months since November, or maybe even before that. Some people may have stopped in October. It could have been 3 months. And of course, they're all itching to get back at it. There's going to be lots of people down for the first round in Homestead, so you go to that one. It's a big expense to go to these races. We know that too. So maybe someone says, we're going to go to one, and then 2 months later, we're going to head out. We'll do the practice day at the Winter Nationals, and we'll go racing.
And think about it with junior and senior, all of these drivers are pretty much under the age of 18. So they're, for the month of February, they got to miss school, where January, they might have been able to be on winter break still or Christmas break. So it's, there's a lot of different factors that boil into the number of drivers that do attend races and the number of drivers that don't attend races.
Yeah, agreed. So there you have it, folks. That's the overview. David Cole and I are talking about the SuperKarts USA Winter Series finale. That's the overview. We're going to get into it after this. We've got to jump into the paddock pass when we get back from this break, but stay with us. Just getting things going here. Episode number 41 of the EKN Debrief. The shift is on to a new brand and a new way of thinking. Mad Old Nut Racing and Croc Promotion USA are focused on changing the paradigm when it comes to race teams in this sport. And the goal is to support dedicated young racers by giving them the tools and opportunities to succeed. Originally born as Mad Croc, the new branding is Croc Promotion, and Armando Fellini's product continues its dedication to quality and innovation. Croc Promotion USA is the American importer and distributor, and Mad Old Nut Racing is the official race team. We're ready to attack in 2019, and our race results speak for themselves. AJ Myers swept the first 4 Winter Series shifter kart races of the year, and Andrew Bedozo continues to assert himself as an emerging player. Croc Promotion has momentum. Dedicated and talented young drivers, supported and mentored by team owners who know business and who are passionate about karting. That's Croc Promotion USA. That's Mad Old Nut Racing. Search for us on social media and give us a follow. From coast to coast, Miami has become the 2-cycle engine of choice for American karting. Starting with the air-cooled 60cc Swift engine for micro and mini drivers, and moving through the incredible X30 power plant for junior, senior, and masters, Miami is providing much-needed stability for the sport. In 2018, the new KA100 Rejet engine took the karting community by storm, and it will be a core class on the SCUSA Winter Series and Pro Tour, as well as the United States Pro Kart Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, and the WKA Manufacturers Cup programs. Watch for more regions, series, and events to get on board with the new Miami formula. This year, Miami USA is debuting the new SSE 175cc shifter engine, which will be the foundation of SuperKarts USA gearbox competition for the future. The engine has been custom designed with a balanced equation of performance and reliability. We have 2 distribution centers in the U.S. to serve you well. Miami East in Mooresville, North Carolina, and Miami West in Temecula, California. The momentum is continuing to build. It's time to make an investment in stabilizing your engine program. For more information, head to the website for your region, IamiUSAEast.com or IamiUSAWest.com. Miami, the heart of karting. Welcome back to episode number 41 of the EKN Debrief. My name is Rob Howden, joined as always by David Cole as we break down one of the races we were just at. Of course, this past weekend was February 8th, 9th, and 10th. The weekend before, we're actually about a week out from when I was going to record this, but super busy last week. Dave and I both did double duty that weekend. He was at COTA, the Challenge of the Americas event at Cal Speed. I was at Homestead for the final 2 rounds of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. We'll go over those today. Jumping in now to the Paddock Pass, some of the stuff that I kind of picked up from walking around the pit area. This edition of the Paddock Pass presented by Comet Racing Engines. Looking for that extra edge? Comet Racing Engines is your answer. The engine service program from Comet Kart Sales has been winning from coast to coast at all levels and different forms of the sport. Comet Racing Engines continually perform track and dyno tests to provide their customers with the cutting edge in engine performance. Trackside and customer support are the cornerstone of the Comet Racing Engines business, ensuring that each and every customer receives personal attention and the help they need to achieve the best results. Contact the Comet team at cometkartsales.com or by calling 317-462-3413. All right, David, I've got, 5 bits to chat about here in the Paddock Pass. Reverse direction. I think that was the first thing I wanted to bring up because, a lot of talk, was about that particular approach going in. People run counterclockwise at Homestead. I love the track counterclockwise. I've raced it a couple of times. I really dig it. Reverse layout clockwise, quite a bit different. And to be honest, some guys just didn't pick up the track, I think, quite as quickly as others. We talked about track limits being a discussion. So to lay that out for those of you who maybe just listened or saw some of the photography or some of the video, they opened up track limits. It really surprised me, Dave, in the final corner and the first corner. So the final corner is that, turn 10 left-hander into a double apex right. It's just, and not even a double apex right. It's more like a right-hand turn 11, short shoot, right-hand turn 12. They essentially allowed the guys to do this big sweeping corner all the way to the outside of the curb and then come back. I really don't know why. I would have, with the video marshaling system that SCUSA has, I really would rather have seen them say, hey, listen, we've got the video. You were 4 wheels out. It's a 5-second penalty. I'm not really sure. I didn't really sit down with Joe Janowski to ask him. I was, we were just doing what we were doing, and that's what his plan was. Not sure if that was the best idea, although the racing was still really good.
It's, it boils down to not wanting to officiate that section of the racetrack. Really, what it boils down to. It's video doesn't lie. It's not hard. You point a camera directly down the line. Any carts that go 4 wheels off without contact is deemed to be penalized. And again, maybe there's not anything in the rule book regarding that. So maybe that's one particular reason why they decided not to enforce track limits, because maybe that's never been addressed in the rule book. It's not something I typically look for in a rule book is track limits, because 95% of the racetracks we go to are either defined by grass or by walls or tech pros. And, when you go to Supernat. Right. So, and that's the thing that boggles my mind is we talk about it over and over and over again at the Super Nationals about how they have barriers where they don't need barriers, and then they don't have barriers where they should have barriers. Well, to define the racetrack in those certain areas, you have a barrier, place a barrier. And so again, I don't understand why. But again, as we talked about for my weekend, it was the same thing. There's very little barriers at Cal Speed. It's all defined by painted lines. And so as we talked about in the wet weather, guys were going off the sealer to gain more grip on the wet surface to negotiate certain corners of the racetrack. It's something we're going to have to address at the Winter Nationals for sure if inclement weather does come down. Now, dry weather wise, I don't see that really being an issue at all, such as it was at Homestead.
It's interesting. I actually drove at Cal Speed a couple of weeks ago with Josh Huff. He put together the 206 VLR for me to drive around. And there were areas on that track, even in the 206, where you don't run within the lines. When you come onto the straightaway out of the S's coming down the hill in that particular direction, that counterclockwise direction on whatever track I was on, Sportivo, whatever it was, you're all the way over to the outside of the track, even in the 206, keeping the momentum up, and you're just not getting into the barriers. Well, they have barriers on the outside, but I'm straddling the the line for sure.
Yeah, that's one area that they did lay down some tech pros or barriers to keep them in somewhat the track limits. And again, it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a massive amount of going off track. It's again, you're straddling the line, I think, with your left tires. I think it was a little different for the challenge weekend than when you were there the weekend before that. So but again, when you don't have grass or dirt or actual barriers defining the track, I mean, the drivers are going to push the limits.
The remainder of my Paddock Pass notes here, essentially talking about different teams and different drivers, because it was interesting to see some drivers that we haven't seen in a while come back. Some guys were driving different chassis. First and foremost, I think one of the impressions coming out of the box here to start 2019 when it comes to at least Superkarts USA racing is the impression that's been made by the guys from Mad Old Nut Racing and Croc Promotion with, of course, AJ Myers, Andrew Bedozzo. They had Joey Atanasio with them this weekend as well on a Croc Promotion chassis. This program's obviously just starting to get rolling. It's been kind of a Southern California deal with Mad Old Nut Racing. It was, of course, Mad Croc at one point, which is that was the brand name that was leveraged off an energy drink, I believe. There's a bunch of Mad Croc racers down in Australia. Of course, they do well over in Europe as well. Now Croc Promotion. In fact, they've got a future IndyCar driver, Ben Hanley's doing some driving for them as well. But over here, they've really started to make things happen. Of course, getting the number one ranked driver in the country, not a bad idea in AJ Myers, but he has really kind of melded to the culture that Todd Ullman's got going at that Mad Old Nut Racing program. And they're going to be a really interesting story, I think, to watch throughout the season, because there's a cool culture there. There's a cool atmosphere and attitude. Andrew Bedozzo stepping up and looking very strong. Of course, AJ Myers winning the championship in Pro Shifter, a great battle with Billy Musgrave. So there's that kind of dynamic going on. I think you'll see more people joining up with that team, but Croc Promotion is going to be something to watch, I think, David, throughout the 2019 season. It's the Pro Shifter stuff looked pretty cool. And you throw Ramirez in there with PSL, you throw Kyle Wick in there. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, to watch what happens in Pro Shifter, especially with Croc Promotion being kind of this new kind of arrival on the scene.
Well, I think you said it when they added, AJ Myers to the fold at the end of last year. That was kind of the turning point for this program. They've tried it before with Billy Musgrave in the tag program, but it didn't really work out to what I think they wanted it to be, because again, the tag market is so saturated with a number of different brands where the shifter market, I think, is more open. I mean, you see CRG really dominate. You have a lot of other different brands, it's all but Tony Kart or OTK that race shifters, I think, that are out there. So it's more of a viable avenue for the Mad Old Nut Racing and Croc Promotions program to go towards, and adding AJ Myers is a huge plus, and obviously they've started out the 2019 season strong.
One thing about Croc Promotion and Mad Old Nut Racing, you'll see a brand new livery coming. The whole Mad Croc, as I said, the Mad Croc energy drink kind of separated themselves from the actual team itself. So essentially what's going to happen, the Croc Promotion now, brand new livery, new colors. They debuted everything at one of the kart shows in Europe over the winter. So watch for new livery and a whole new branding coming from them.
And it looks a lot better. It looks a lot better.
It does. It looks badass. It does look a lot better. I agree.
It's hard to photograph all black karts, aside from the CRG, really, because they have that orange that stick out.
You got to have the contrast, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're right. It just doesn't pop as much when you're as David, the photographer, will tell you. A couple other interesting additions. Let's first talk about Braden Eves coming back. Braden recently signing with Cape Motorsports to run in USF 2000 in the Road to Indy this year, but doing some kart racing as well. He came back and ran with VME Kart USA, was very quick out of the box, was in a top 10 guy throughout a majority of the weekend. Braden, of course, a Pro Tour winner in the past, a very talented young driver following in the footsteps of guys like Oliver Askew and Kyle Kirkwood. So it was good to see Braden back. A guy that we haven't actually seen on the Pro Tour really a lot in American karting, but came back. He's a veteran of the Road to Indy. It's Calvin Ming from Guyana. Lives in America now, but he's actually coming back to stay fresh in karting. He raced the first round, David, of the Winter Series with Kart Sport North America on a Kart Republic. Then he moved this past race for the finale and ran with the guys at Musgrave on the Aluminos. And I actually messaged with Calvin this last night and today, and he was very, very positive about his time with Aluminos, or rather on the Aluminos with Musgrave. He's actually going to take this year off from the road to Indy in his car career to finish up his studies at university. But he's told me he's going to run the whole Pro Tour. So he's going to be at the Winter Nationals, Calvin Mingwell, running with in the Pro Shifter with the Musgraves. So I thought that was kind of a cool addition to see this guy who's doing road to Indy come back and take a year off essentially from road to Indy. And man, he's going to do some karting with us. I think that's kind of cool. That's
very cool to see. Again, many of the racers that are in the road to Indy or have already gone through it, they always find their way back to their roots.
Yeah, they do. Last but not least, when it comes to different chassis, Annie Rule did a tremendous job in the X30 junior class. She was essentially top 5 runner all weekend. Maybe let's say top 10, because she really came on in both of the main events. She was able to work her way to 3rd, I believe, on Saturday. And I want to say a 5th place finish on Sunday in the X30 junior category. She was running with Solo Kart. Adam Pettit and Salvatore Sparaccio, their program, the Solo Kart deal. Beautiful chassis, gorgeous livery, nice presentation. But they were good all weekend. Even the two guys in X30 Master were fast. But, man, I'll tell you, Andy Rule picked up that Solo Kart, David. And I know you get a chance to see her way more than I do when it comes to USPKS or WK Manufacturers Cup, but she was on a roll there in that new chassis, that Solo Kart. And man, like I said, she raced her way into the podium on day 1 and could have did the same thing on day 2.
Well, yeah, going into the year, she was going to be one of those junior rookies that we were going to be watching throughout the season. Obviously, I think she has she's there because of the age. I think she turned 13, or is 12 turning 13. So she has the experience because, as you said, over year after year, she's always been, a podium contender in her cadet career year after year. So it's good to see her grasp the bigger kart now already in just 2 or 3 events already into the 2019 season.
If what Annie did at Homestead is any indication, I think she could challenge for a lot of podiums this year. She was really impressive. Need to find a little more speed. But I expect to see her, David, as a top 10 driver throughout the 2019 season. Well, there's the Paddock Pass wrapped up, again, presented by Comet Racing Engines. We'll cut to another quick break, and when we come back, it's time to rock into the race report. Let's start looking at the categories that capped off this year's SCUSA Winter Series. Joining the Rawlson Performance Group is the obvious choice to take your racing to the next level. Industry-leading driver development is provided by our staff of multi-time national champions, Super Nationals winners, and former Team USA members. And at the same time, RPG continues to be a national-level powerhouse race team. Our goal is to help you raise your game and win races. Rawlson Performance Group is setting a new standard with our in-house engine program, AVP Engines, headed by Alex Vincent. AVP has become the benchmark in the IAME X30 categories. We have the largest trackside OTK inventory, providing parts to racers and teams at all the major events in North America. RPG can also offer multilingual support, as we have French and Portuguese-speaking staff. If you want to fight for championships or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. The Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. If the dream is IndyCar, set your target on the road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Our ladder system is designed to take drivers through 3 rungs of competition. The first step is the Cooper Tires USF 2000 Championship, which features a carbon tub Tatis chassis, 180 horsepower, and paddle shift sequential gearbox. Boost the USF 2000's output to 280 horsepower for the newly named Indy Pro 2000 program, the second rung of the road to Indy, formerly known as Pro Mazda. Add in increased grip and aero downforce, and the Tatis PM18 becomes an incredible racing machine. The final step before IndyCar is the Indy Lights Championship presented by Cooper Tires. The Dallara IL-15 boasts a whopping 450 horsepower. This car itself has helped train a third of the grid expected for the 2019 IndyCar Series. At all three levels, you race at premier venues on the same dance card as IndyCar. Showcase your skills under the watchful eyes of IndyCar scouts and owners. The program is unprecedented around the world, offering the opportunity to climb the ladder with over $2 million in scholarships to the champions in USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, and Indy Lights. Former karters fill the roster of Road to Indy graduates in IndyCar like Spencer Pigot, Zach Veach, Jack Harvey, Ed Jones, Matthias Laced, Felix Rosenquist, Colton Herta, and 2018 Indy Lights champion Pato O'Ward. Recent graduates like Kyle Kirkwood are in the middle of their journeys right now as well. Follow in their footsteps. If you want to race IndyCar, there's only one choice. The Road to Indy, presented by Cooper Tires. Welcome back to episode number 41 of the EKN Debrief. It's February 19th, 2019. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole. Thank you so much for tuning into the EKN Radio Network. We appreciate it, whether you're listening to the stream on the EKN Radio Network or potentially once we've produced this podcast and made it downloadable to iTunes and Google Play. We do appreciate it. Moving now into the race report. I've got to work my way through all these categories. David will add a little bit in. This race report presented by Kart Republic and Kart Sport North America. The Kart Republic is here, and it's disturbing the status quo. Kart Sport North America is the country's importer and distributor for the Kart Republic chassis, and as a leader in American karting, they're focused on providing stability for the sport and quality products and service for the community. The Kart Republic senior and junior chassis are on fire, and so is the new mini kart, which has already won in SCUSA, USPKS, and WKA competition. For more information, contact Kart Sport North America, where they offer up top quality products, winning brands, and professional driver development services. All right, David, on my list, I'm going to get things underway with Pro Shifter and Master Shifter. It's been a battle, David, as we've seen, for the last how long between Billy Musgrave and AJ Myers. They went at it at the Supernats, and Musgrave was able to score his third win there, back-to-back in the Pro Shifter category. AJ was second. Not a happy man on the podium. All those photos, he's got that I didn't win look. But he turned it all around in the first couple of rounds of the winter program and was strong out of the box. Before I jump into it, what are your thoughts on this Musgrave-Myers battle? Do you think it's going to go all year long or what?
It should. Musgrave definitely has the time with the 175 engine, the new SSE engine package. So Musgrave, two-time Supernats winner, still that elusive Pro Tour championship is sitting out there. So Musgrave, I think his number one goal all season long is to win that Pro Tour championship. Anything else doesn't matter aside from Supernats. So we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Myers. With this new the Mad Old Nut Racing program and Croc Promotions, he's geared up to win another Pro Tour title as well. This time with a new team, so to be back-to-back championships, something that we haven't seen in the headline division in the Pro Tour yet. So yeah, it's going to be a 12-month battle.
And I think that the interesting thing, the newness of the 175, people are getting a good feel for it, as you said. Musgrave's got a lot of seat time on it. Myers does a lot of driving, so he's getting a good feel for it. I think you got to add in Kyle Wick with CRG Nordam. You add in Mateus Ramirez with PSL Karting. There's a bunch of guys that you're going to add in to the fight for this championship. This is going to be interesting. Now, on Saturday...
we've had no repeat champions in Pro Tour
you just went through your notes? Good for you. Good for you. And so isn't that wild? 9 years, and we haven't had a repeat Pro Shifter.
Back-to-back. Yeah, back-to-back.
I meant back-to-back. Yeah, back-to-back champion in S1, although we go 3 in a row for Ryan Norberg in X30 Senior. I think that even speaks more about how impressive it is for Norberg to win 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
That's just unbelievable. So, there's no chink in the armor at all for AJ Myers the first rounds of the Winter Tour, or Winter Series, rather. He wins both races in January. Struggled, though, David, on Saturday. A mechanical, I want to say there was a coil wire at one point. Another one, I believe, was something happened with the rear gear, the sprocket. So he has a couple mechanicals. Billy Musgrave ends up winning the pre-final. He wins the final as well as Myers goes out on lap number 7, even though he had turned fast lap of the race. He's out with a mechanical on lap number 7, so the string is broken. So Musgrave wins on Saturday. Kyle Wick in second, Matias Ramirez in third. And those are the names you're going to continue to hear. On Sunday, of course, I want to say that the shifters were gridded up around 4th, I think, in the order. So we don't have any rain for the main event for X30 Junior. They're dry. Second is the Briggs drivers. It pours on the Briggs drivers. Bring them in. Put out the micros. They're in full wet. Put the Briggs out in full wet. And then, Dave, it was drying up a little bit, right? So it was still wet, but it wasn't raining anymore. And it's funny, as I ran outside from the booth and was looking at the pro shifter guys on the grid, everybody's still on dries. I mean, on the rain tires, the treaded rain tires. And I was saying to Billy, come on, you're not going to roll the dice? And he said, I thought about it. We were thinking about it, but in the end, it was a right call to stay with the wets. But for Billy, David, you know what happens when you're thrashing from dry to wet, right? And they get out there, like opening lap, couple laps, Billy's all over the back of Musgrave, who got the whole shot. And all of a sudden, coming through the double apex left-hander, the inner loop of the track, his left front goes, gone. It just came off. The hub slid off. He slides off the racetrack. And you could see him just sitting there looking at the front wheel like, what just happened? You know, it's the kind of thing the kind of little mistake that everybody's made, but you got to expect they just didn't quite tighten it down enough, knowing that they were probably trying to go pretty wide in the front end to get grip as well. It
happens all the time. Happened at Cal Speed on our weekend as well too. I believe once or twice we saw that. So again, it happens even in dry conditions. Guys just forget to take the tires off between each session and forget to put it on, or just not tighten it the proper way, or it could have been a snapped hub. I'm not sure. I'm sure you didn't get a chance to check that out as well either. So it's part of racing, and you have to kind of overcome that.
I'll be honest, it happened to me. I want to say the Florida Winter Tour 2000, I think. I was running in the S3 rookie shifter category at Ocala. I won the pre-final going away, and it started to rain and then stopped and then rained again, and I had my left front come off at the end of going into turn number 1 at full speed at Ocala. And I went straight off. Luckily, I didn't get into the barriers, but I went straight off and was just distraught. Same thing. I was by myself, right? I'm doing my own stuff. I was thrashing to get the thing set up for the rain, and off it came. So mistakes can happen. In the end, Myers, of course, with that win on Sunday, goes 3 wins, drops the Saturday DNF. He scores the championship in the Winter Series. Musgrave was second with 2 seconds and a first. And, of course, he dropped the DNF from Sunday. Matias Ramirez, though, David, it was interesting. He ends up third, but 4 podiums. The only driver in Master Shifter to be on the podium all 4 races.
Well, that's part of the best 3 out of 4 type program. When you have that drop race, as you said, Myers scored the championship. Well, he scored the championship with a perfect score for those 3 races that he counted. That 4th one, if he would have counted the 4th one, that probably would have hurt him overall, and likely could have possibly put Ramirez on top of the championship podium.
Probably Ramirez. That's exactly right. In the Masters category, Jordan Musser dominated the action. They had a handful of drivers in the weekends. Dan Montiero, the Canadian running for Rawlson Performance Group, just was out there getting quicker and quicker every race. He ended up finishing second both days. Brett Harrelson, I believe, third on Saturday. Luke Bola, third on Sunday. So that's your pro shifter and master shifter. Let's move to X30 Senior because wow, they made sure that we were not light on excitement at all, David. On Saturday, Norberg, again, good out of the box, strong throughout the day, qualifying pre-final. Starts on pole for the final and kind of gets roughed up a little bit. That national number 1 plate will do that for you. So the opening lap, they're coming, into the inner loop for the first time out of the box in the back part of the racetrack, the essentially 3 right-hand corners. Gets shuffled out over the curbing. Guys are he loses 1 spot. And then, David, you know what happens. He's over the curbing. You lose 1 more. These guys are aggressive, right? He ends up going back to, I want to say, 7th on the opening lap. And it was just one of those deals where he was always in the wrong place. When you make a mistake at a 1 corner, you're always trying to catch up. And, man, guys were diving to the inside of him. He tried to hold the outside of the turn 4 going into the inner loop. That didn't work. But, in the podcast interview I did, the hot seat interview I did with Ryan, David, he talked back in December after he had lost his ride with PSL when they went separate ways. I'd asked him what he learned over the years that he's been racing. Here's a guy that's won 3 Pro Tour championships. What have you learned at that level? And the one thing he brought up was patience, and was the fact that if I make a mistake or if a guy gets by me, I'm not going to try to dive bomb him in the next corner. I'm going to set myself back up, and if I'm fast enough, I'll go past him myself. And it was proven so well for him back in 7th. He could easily have lost his cool. He could have tried some, low percentage aggressive pass moves to try to get back to the front, but he just let things settle in. These are 25 lap races, David. You know this, right? You got a long way to go if you have trouble in the opening lap. And I'll tell you, Dave, he just methodically worked his way forward, was picking guys off. There's coming out of the inner loop, you go through turn 7 into turn 8, which is the first hairpin of the 2 back-to-back hairpins. And it's kind of a real quick transition to the right, then back to the left to the hairpin. And he was just a couple passes, just an aggressive dive down to the apex, owned that apex, held the outside so the guy couldn't over-under him, and pulled out of the corner to get that pass. I'm telling you, David, Norberg flat controlled that race, went back to the lead. I was so impressed with that particular race more than anything he did. Even racing against Travis Anuto and everything he did in January, that was the best race I've seen Ryan run, maybe ever. It was impressive to come back from 7th.
Well, I think one thing that stood out is having the speed. That was one thing that Norberg did have because he ran the fastest laps of the race by almost 0.2 of a second. So when you have the fastest car down the racetrack, it's easier to buy your time, and especially in a 25 lap race, just pinpoint where you want to make your moves. So compared to a guy who's struggling, losing positions, just wants to get it right back right away because he knows if he doesn't, he might not ever get it back.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah. I don't think we can overstate how strong the pairing of Rawlson Performance Group and Ryan Norberg have been out of the box. Will it continue for the remainder of the year? We'll see, but definitely an impression made early with Norberg running for RPG. Second on Saturday, Christian Brooks. He was essentially the best of the rest there. He and Patrick Woods-Toth on the podium, second and third. Christian, good as always with Nash Motorsports, just tremendous in terms of being on pace. The 2 CRG Nordam drivers, Austin Garrison and Olin Galley, were 4th and 5th. Let's move now to Sunday, and this is where things got wild because essentially it developed into a 4-driver battle up front for the race win. Olin Galley in the lead. Now, let's revert back real quickly. He actually had a penalty rolling throughout the day during that race because he got into Lorenzo Travis Anuto, your reigning world champion running for Kart Republic and Kart Sport North America. He actually essentially took Travis Anuto out in, I believe it was turn number 10, I think they said. And Travis Anuto fell all the way back, I think, to the tail end of the top 10, maybe even outside the top 10. So the penalty was already there for Galley. But the run at the end was Olin Galley. Christian Brooks was all over him trying to find a way. Brooks was setting himself up for the chance to win. There's no doubt about it. Norberg and his teammate Patrick Woods-Toth, the young Canadian, 3rd and 4th. They were right there. 4 drivers pulling away. We're talking about, drop the gloves in the final couple of laps. Here we go. They go into that 7-8 combination I talked about, that right-left into the hairpin combination. And Galley, I want to say short braked. Now, somebody told me, or I've heard news that Galley's front bumper was already pushed in, so he already knew that he had a 10-second penalty coming, or a 5-second penalty. It looked to me like he short braked on Brooks going into 8. Because Brooks obviously wanted to make a move to the inside to try to take it. He short braked. Brooks gets hammered there. Whether or not he had to push back from that, or they come out of 8 and go down to turn number 9. Again, Galley to the bottom. Brooks is right with him. He short brakes going in to make the corner. Brooks goes way around the outside, makes a big dart to the outside of the right-hander, and then actually rolls the outside. Like I said in the mic, rolled the cushion on the outside, because no track limits, all the way to the other side of the curbing. He comes back as the leader. When they come across the line, Brooks is the winner. Galley second, Norberg third, Woods-Toth fourth. Both Brooks and Galley. Brooks, of course, gets a penalty for the pushback. I'm not sure if that was it. Galley got a couple of penalties. A jump start, I think, was one of them. I think he got a jump start. I think he got contact with Travis Anuto and the pushback. He ends up going all the way back to like 18th or something. And Ryan Norberg ends up with another win from third. There was a wild finish for sure.
Yeah, you're right. There was a jump start penalty, 3 seconds for Gali, and then obviously the contact with Travis Anuto. That was a 5-second penalty, but no pushback penalty on Gali. So
I was sure he had a pushback. I ran from my booth into tech just to try to see who had.
There was. They didn't mark it down because it was Brooks. And then 2 other drivers with pushback penalties. So
interesting.
Yeah, that again, that's one of the things we've projected when the pushback bumper came in was guys were going to brake check one another. And I think this is probably the first more highlighted, more focused incident that we've seen of this. And to be clear, with the onboard, it didn't look as obvious as it might have been in real time or while it happened. But, again, it's part of racing. Don't follow the guy into the corner. If he's diving to the inside and he's going to check up early, hug the cushion, go to the outside.
Well, I'll tell you this. We have a lot of talk about the video marshaling system. And everybody, we talk about what we think we see on track. Of course, I'm looking straight across the track from where I am at start finish. And I've watched it all weekend long. So I'm familiar with kind of the speeds and the corner speeds. And so I look at it and visually, and to me, it felt like he short braked just from what I saw, right? And calling it. And I believe there was contact. Well, Joe Janowski let me look at the video, and they had, 2 camera angles, but just the way the cameras were angled, I couldn't tell you. I myself couldn't have made the call that it indeed happened there. And then that just made me again think, hey, you know what? You're right. My perspective is one thing. It's not always correct. It's my perspective, and you just wish people on the sidelines would feel the same thing because it was even hard to see from video marshaling, David. But the bottom line is penalties come down. It's another 1-2 for Ryan Norberg and Patrick Woods-Toth. Austin Garrison gets advanced up into the third position because he was 5th on the racetrack. He ends up 3rd. Arthur Lace from PSL in 4th, and Brandon Lemke in the Franklin Motorsports Merlin. Better run on Sunday after getting a flat tire at the very start of Saturday. He comes back and ends up finishing 5th. It was, hey, you know what? One of the reasons why we love this sport so much is because everybody's so passionate about it, but the racing's just so damn good. And yeah, there was some contact, but I'll tell you, dude, that it was fun to watch. It was guys dropping the gloves and going at it on the final lap. It was awesome.
That's what you want to see at that level. That's really it.
I totally agree. Norberg, of course, completes an incredible series debut with Rawlison, ends up winning 3 of 4 races, second in the other one to take the championship. Patrick Woods-Toth, the young 15-year-old Canadian, probably one of the stars of the entire program, how good he was. He ends up in second, and reigning world champion Lorenzo Travis Anuto, who, of course, just scored the victory at the Winter Cup at South Garda, finishing in 3rd. So, David, some pretty impressive runs in X30 Senior. My mind is we're going to have another awesome year on the Pro Tour because there's a bunch of young kids coming up that look good, but everybody's kind of stabilizing. The big teams have got talented drivers, and man, it's Pro Tour Cal Speed's going to be good. I believe it.
Well, just like you said, Patrick Woods-Toth, that's a great addition to RPG along with Norberg. So those guys, along with, what are the Lupians doing? Are they coming back for the Pro Tour? So, and then you add in Hannah Greenmeyer in the RPG. And then you look at CRG adding Austin Garrison, with Franklin bringing back Brandon Lemke. So a lot of these teams, as you said, they're stacking the deck going into Cal Speed. So it's a matter of who can come out of there first as the championship leader. Yeah,
hearing a rumor that PSL Karting potentially could be bringing back Ryan McDermott as well. He's doing some F4 racing this year, so that could make things a little bit interesting. But you're right, it's a lot of good stuff happening right now in X30 Senior. Excuse me. Let's move to X30 Master, because essentially the weekend was this battle between Renato Jader-David, Rodrigo Piquet, Scott Robertson, and Martin Pierce. Those were really the 4 drivers who were badasses throughout the weekend. Renato Jader-David, former Super Nationals winner, essentially, I wouldn't say dominated, but he was the guy really to beat throughout Saturday. He was able to get the win by 3 seconds over Scott Roberts and Martin Pierce. Pierce has got a great story to tell later on, but of course, Martin running with the comp cart now. Martin, a former Rotax World Grand Final winner. On Sunday, So Jador David ends up winning again. Race-long battle with Rodrigo Piquet. They pull out to the battle out amongst each other. They were the two drivers essentially fighting for the championship, but they're scrapping it out for the race win. David gets it. My focus for majority of the race, and I felt bad about it because it was just Martin Pierce, David, coming from the tail of the field. He had an issue after the pre-final. I think he finished third in the pre-final, but the rear track was too wide, like a margin, like a hair too wide. So he starts dead last in the final. And Dave, you know Martin. You've watched him race when he came over with Wildcard to run at the Rock Island Grand Prix. You just know how talented of a driver he is. And Martin was just an absolute surgeon coming through the field. And it was that turn 8 hairpin, the first of the 2 hairpins. He'd come out of 7, roll the thing to the left side of the track. Everybody else is going right to set up to get around that corner, and boom, right to the apex. His ability to work his way to the front was just tremendous to watch. Decisive passes, goes from what 16th, whatever it may have been. How many guys do we have in Masters? 16th to 3rd over a shortened race too. They only ran, I want to say they ran 19 laps. It was scheduled to be a 22 lapper. We cut some laps because of the rain.
18 laps.
18 was 18. Okay, cut 4 laps. Boom. Dude, 3rd place. It was an impressive run back to the front.
And not the quickest lap out there, but probably the most consistent. I mean, he was right there running lap times compared to the leaders. But again, he's almost like an older Ben Cooper, very experienced world champion. It's great to have him here now living in the United States and doing technical work here and there, but also getting back behind the wheel. So very cool to see him back. Yeah.
And like Ben Cooper, very, decisive when it comes to making his passes,
yes,
right? Very clean,
yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Just takes them. Like it's not this wishy-washy, him coming inside you to kind of rub you out of the corner. It's I'm taking the apex and you're going behind me after this corner. So that was pretty impressive. Renato David did score the championship for Orsilon Racing. PK was 2nd and Scott Roberts 3rd overall. Roberts was really quick, David. I know we have a lot of fun with Scotty when we're at the racetrack, jibbing each other left and right, but the bottom line was he just had a lot of speed. Qualified on pole a couple of the weekends, I think, and Scott Roberts looking really good too. He could, of course, running with Mike and Alex Speed, right? At Speed Concepts Racing. Scotty was fast. I think he's going to be good this year.
I think he's getting more consistent. That's probably the key to what he's been able to do, because we've always seen the speed coming out of him, but I think it's consistent speed, because he could have been the USBKS champion in 2018. But a couple early mistakes early in the season, kind of cost him that championship run. So the speed is there, definitely, for sure. I think it's more consistency now.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. If he can get more consistent, he was running with David and PK the whole time. Just a little bit more consistency throughout a race weekend and throughout any individual run. I think Scott Roberts will definitely be in the fight for the championship this year. We'll cap off this particular segment of the Race Report. Again, brought to you by Kart Sport North America and Kart Republic. We'll move to X30 Junior. And for me on Saturday, it was one of those deals where finally this young driver was able to break through and not only avoid some bad luck, but actually kind of come into his own to a certain extent. And I'm talking about Mackenzie Clark, who runs for Prime Power Team, Trevor Wickens. Best career performance, of course, raced hard within the lead group all race long, but the difference was he was in that lead group. And instead of kind of letting that group dictate where he was going to be and potentially what he was going to do, it seemed to me like Mackenzie this time really stepped up and kind of managed it. He knew where he wanted to be. He had that confidence, in his kart, like I think Norberg has with his RPG Cosmic. It just seemed like he knew where he wanted to be. When he wanted to lead, he would go to the lead. And David, we've seen this so many times when a young driver gets that first big win. I think the relief off of Mackenzie was massive because he's had so many good runs thwarted by bad luck, drivers piling over the back of him, whatever it may be. This one, though, clear, super run, was able to score a really impressive win over Luca Mars and Noel Leon. It was impressive for Clark to get that win.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to see him step out away from the bad luck that he's had. It kind of reminds you of the Ryan McDermott win last year at the Summer Nats, just finally able to get that elusive victory. And so now Clark has been able to follow in that footsteps with Prime Power Sports, or And so, yeah, definitely good to see. Now it's a matter of what's he going to do for the rest of the year.
Well, I will say that he came back for another great podium finish on Sunday, so that's a pretty good follow-up. But you're right. What's going to happen at Pro Tour or whatever else he runs here in 2019? Luca Mars was super strong all weekend. He ends up second, as I said. Noel Leon, the driver for CRG Nordam out of Mexico, that third place isn't just a third place. I'm not sure what happened. Something happened in qualifying. He ended up starting 46th, dead last in the pre-final. Over that run, I think 18 laps or whatever. No, it was 13 laps, something like it wasn't even 18. 13 laps, I think. He went from 46th up until, I think, 15th or 16th. So he's a row A start for the 8 start for the main event. And then David worked his way forward, just like Martin Pierce, aggressive going to the front, ends up with a third place finish. And in fact, had closed up on Luca Mars at the end. I hope he runs the Pro Tour because Leon was just damn impressive on the CRG.
That's good to see. Yeah, the CRG Nordam operation is definitely putting in some hired guns at the Winter Series, and I think moving forward for the rest of the season because they're really trying to become that powerhouse that they've been worldwide.
No doubt. So coming into Sunday, the final race, such a championship Sunday of the Winter Series, the title up for grabs in X30 Junior. And it was actually Luca Mars who rose to the occasion. Very strong run for Luca. He ends up taking the victory off track because Leon actually got the win. He was able to get the win. Noel Leon, who was third on Saturday, ends up getting the victory, but he got a jump start penalty that put him back. So Luca Mars ends up getting the win, and with that, the championship over Diego Canteca by just 25 points. Mackenzie Clark, as I said, came back to finish second on Sunday. Strong backup performance after that win. And then Diego Canteca was third. Think about how close that was, the change in points. Even if Diego was fourth and Luca was second with Leon still P1, and had he not got the penalty, it still would have been Mars winning the championship. But David, how many times do you and I talk about this over the season when maybe a guy sits fifth in a pre-final and doesn't go for fourth or third when it comes down to a handful of points at the end, 25 or less? That's a little tough to take sometimes because even though in a pre-final, hey, I want to start third, I don't want to start second. When you're giving up those points, you could be giving up a championship.
That's exactly it. That's why, at least in Superkarts USA competition, every session is valuable towards a championship. But going back to Leon, I mean, how many more jump starts are we going to have in Superkarts USA competition? Are people not understanding the rules? I mean, or is it just
Dave? You can't miss the blue cones. They're right there.
I mean, he's the pole sitter. How many times are we going to see the pole sitter getting a jump start penalty? That just, it boggles my mind that we're so focused on that. It shouldn't be a penalty. It really shouldn't be. I mean, the pole sitter sets the pace.
Well, hold on then. I agree with that. But if the rule is you can't punch off with it until you get to the blue cone, don't punch off till you get to the blue cone. But
again, you got to define the punching off.
Don't accelerate. It's do not start your acceleration before the blue cone. And you obviously did, right? And you're right. I don't like it. I think you come out of the corner and you're the guy and away you go. Right? Yeah. I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying, but the rule is this. You got to do it. It's just
but we're seeing too many guys losing victories now because of it, even though it is in their hands to do it when they want to do it. So that I'll just leave it at that. We can talk about it another time.
Is this a round table?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's just cap off real quick. A quick summary on X30 Junior. As I said, Luca Mars with the championship by 25 points over Diego Canteca. Luke Lang finishes in third on the strength of his 1-2 finish at the opener, but not quite able to match that performance when we got back to Homestead in February. He was still fast, but he wasn't as quick as he was when we started off the season in January. All right, final break of this podcast. When we come back, we've got the KA100, Mini, Micro, and we'll wrap things up with our Briggs 206 categories. Again, this is the EKN Debrief on the EKN Radio Network. In a sport where the difference between winning and losing is measured in hundredths of a second, you can't afford to leave anything on the table. You invest in the best equipment, the latest components, and top-of-the-line data acquisition systems. anything to find one more tenth, right? I'll tell you right now, the best investment you could ever make is in yourself. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the new state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy uses the very best equipment, Burrell Art Carts. They offer half-day, 1-day, 2-day, and 3-day clinics. They have a one-on-one student-to-instructor ratio, and they will design a customized curriculum for each student. Alan Rudolph is one of the most respected people in the sport, and he has nearly 20 years' experience training drivers, including Chase Elliott, Neil Alberico, Austin Versteeg, and Sabre Cook, and rising stars like Pietro Fittipaldi. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Start off your season with a driver tune-up. Tune up your season with some driver coaching. Or get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. For more information, visit speedsportsracingpark.com/racing-academy. Attention karters of the Midwest. Superkarts USA is back. SCUSA is returning to its roots with the launch of the new Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge. It's 4 events at 3 great venues: Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Newcastle Motorsports Park, Concept Haulers Motor Speedway, and Road America. This is your chance to run all the SCUSA categories at X30, KA100, Mini, and Micro Swift. And of course, it's SCUSA where SCUSA was born, so the shifter karts will be front and center. The Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge will be your place to race stock Honda and the awesome new IAME SSE 175cc shifter. Finally, Midwest racers can compete in a SCUSA Regional Series, and if it's your goal, prepare for the National Pro Tour. Follow Superkarts USA's newest regional program on Facebook at SCUSA Great Lakes PKC and on Instagram at SCUSA Great Lakes. Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network. My name's Rob Howden, joined by David Cole as we break down the most recent Superkarts USA Winter Series event, the finale, rounds 3 and 4 from AMR Homestead Miami Motorplex, presented by MG Tires. We are working our way through our race report, brought to you by Kart Republic and Kart Sport North America. Let's do a quick little synopsis of our KA100 junior and senior categories. On Saturday, Santiago Biaggi, essentially Biaggi, let's put it this way, he dominated the weekend. Biaggi drives from 5th to the win with a fast lap. Didn't have a great pre-final, but came right back on Saturday. He wins over Bryson Morris and Annie Rule. Another great run for Annie, again with the solo kart. On Sunday, Biaggi comes back, flat dominates the day, sweeps all 3 sessions, and wins by 5 seconds. Good 4-kart battle, though, for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. It was William Cox finishing 2nd. Mateo Rubio Luengo, who swept the January event, he ends up finishing 3rd. Dylan Christie in 4th and Andy Rule in 5th. And David, KA100, I think you and I are both excited to a certain extent see it grow. We're not big fans of it being on the national tour, but the racing is always so good. The engine's so evenly matched, and the racing that 2nd back to 5th, it was just old school 100cc racing. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, yes and no, but it allows some of these drivers that you've mentioned to gain more track time and experience racing up front, because these are guys that we didn't talk about in X30 Junior. So True. That's the good side of it. But again, numbers wise, I think, it doesn't belong there. But going back to Mateo Rubio Luengo, that DNF in the pre-final, I think in the 2nd round, was it? I think that cost him the title, didn't it?
Well, it ended up being 19 points. Biaggi scored the title over Mateo Rubio Luengo by 19. Big finish, of course, for Biaggi to win both races. And that's all it takes, right? It just 19 points. So you have a DNF like that. Now, granted, he was able to race back to the front, as you said, in January. But what do you do? It's that close, especially as you pointed out, when you're talking about a 4-race deal with 1 drop. It's only 3 races. Right? It's not like you need that consistency over 6 events with 1 drop or 8 events with 1 drop. It's just it's a different approach, and you just cannot make a mistake.
Yep.
That's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. Bryson Morris finished 3rd overall in the K100 junior category. Senior just didn't have the numbers. It didn't draw at all. 2 drivers in the first round, Colton Ramsey and Julia Booz. I think they had 1 more driver. Brett Harrelson ran, I think, a couple of sessions, or maybe just Saturday. This particular weekend, Nathan Martin came and he raced. He ran. He actually got the win on Sunday, although he didn't finish the race. Julia got a penalty for rough driving. So Martin ended up getting the win on the Sunday race. Julia Booz came back. She beat Nathan Martin by 4 seconds. So she gets the victory on Sunday and wins the championship as the only driver to actually card 3 results. So all in all, not a good program for K100. Talk to some guys trackside. They seem to think that more guys are going to come next year. I don't know. I think it's one of those deals, David, for SCUSA. You got to say, hey, if we have 10 pre-entries by, December 15th, we'll run K100 senior. I don't know that you can run it if you didn't have anybody the first round.
Yeah, I think you have to do the numbers situation where if there's not enough pre-entries, you just got to drop it.
And again, they ran together with K100 junior, so it's not like it's going to extend the day at all, but still no sense in having 2 people drive all the way down to Florida to go racing. Let's go to Mini Swift, because this is just one of those races we always love watching. The racing's so good, the racecraft tremendous, and it's interesting. We're seeing a bunch of the drivers that have come out of micro be really good out of the box. Caleb Gaffera being one of them. Watching some of these guys, Max Garcia as well. Boom, out of the box, super strong. But on Saturday, the driver was able to work his way forward, starting in the 6th position. Does have some pretty good momentum right now. Coming off, of course, David, that victory at Daytona. Christian Miles for Kart Sport North America started 6th, worked his way into the fight for the win, and then actually won it. It was one of those things where he had to get in there and get the elbows up and actually position himself, do the strategy to be able to win the race. So he comes away with a big victory. Jakob Kolar in 2nd and Kai Sorensen in 3rd. You see Christian Miles race a lot. A guy you figure is going to run for some wins this year across the different platforms?
Well, he's got that full first season of mini racing under his belt. So this is a sophomore season. We either see a super season or we see a slump. And I think Miles is going to have a super season already, starting out, as you said, with 2 victories at Daytona and now getting a Winter Series victory added onto that. He's going to go into probably USPKS and Pro Tour competition with some good momentum for 2019.
As I had said before, some really good speed shown by some drivers. I had mentioned Caleb Gaffera coming up from micro. He wasn't quite as quick this particular weekend. He was really good in January. Battled a bit getting the feel, I think, for the reverse track direction, although he qualified on pole on Sunday, so he's pretty fast. Just had a couple of minor issues, but was still there in the top 10. Jack Jeffers is really strong. Jakob Kolar putting down really, really good laps on the Formula K. I think Jakob's going to be strong. Paul Bocuse was very quick as well. But I think the driver they're all going to be chasing here, at least for the first half of the season and maybe throughout the 2019 program, David, is Kai Sorensen. Kai running with Super Tune USA, 3rd, as we said, on Saturday. But he pretty much dominated the day on Sunday after qualifying 2nd to Gaffera, won the pre-final, and flat walked away in the final. I want to say it was 5 or 6 or 7 seconds was the margin for Sorensen on Sunday. Jack Jeffers from Texas, he's definitely going to be a championship contender. He finishes 2nd. Jakob Kolar 3rd. That's your podium for Mini Swift on Sunday. Bottom line, pretty solid run. Kai Sorensen scoring that championship in the Mini Swift class. There's just a lot of talent, David. And you think about Sorensen, his time to shine, right? He was the Micro Swift champion, 3 years ago? I want to say 2016. I think he was the Pro Tour Micro Swift champion.
He was the inaugural champion in 2016 for Micro Swift.
So he's in his 3rd year of Mini, and it's obviously time to shine, right? 3rd year, get out there and get it done.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because you're going to assume that he's going to move up to junior next year.
Yep.
Obviously with the age, depending on where he's at. But yeah, great start to 2019. Getting the Winter Series title under his belt. So again, another trophy to add to the mantle. But to be able to win, twice in the 4 rounds is definitely solid.
Well, if Kai moves to junior, it'll be age, not height.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure his dad's a taller guy. I think there's a growth spurt coming, but Kai has not grown that much since running micro. There'll be a growth spurt coming here pretty soon for sure. But Kai definitely with a lot of speed. I was impressed with his consistency and his speed throughout the entire winter series. He's going to be very good when we get to Cal speed as well. Into the micro Swift class. And David, I think the storyline for micro Swift for 2019 is going to be new winners. You know, we had so many of the top drivers of that category move up. We mentioned Garcia, Gaffera, Danny Dzelski moving up as well. A number of the drivers have moved forward. You obviously saw a couple of guys that have moved from the mini micro rock to mini rock in the Challenge of the Americas. A lot of guys moving up, so it kind of makes way for new guys to work their way to the front. At the Winter Tour, it was all about Mateus Orjuela. He started the Winter Tour off in the Peril, and I believe he was on the Praga, moved over to the Praga for this particular weekend, and again, absolutely flat, essentially dominated the whole thing. Got chased by Carson Walters, the young lady in the Tony Karts on Saturday. She finished second. Jack Iliff from Texas, a strong third-place run, but about 10 seconds back, but still really good run for Jack Iliff. On Sunday, wet race, and I mentioned this before. The X30 juniors ran their race in the dry, their main. They were the only ones to come out of the box. And the rain hit, of course, for Briggs. And with a fully wet track, we sent the Micro Swifts out. And as I said at the very top of the podcast, so impressive. They were good. They got through the opening lap with no issues. David, you always, in the wet, you're always thinking maybe the first corner, right? You're crossing your fingers. Please don't wreck in the first corner.
Well, the good thing is that the rain was quick, right? It wasn't actually raining when they went on a racetrack, so it was.
But standing water, there was a lot of standing water.
It's a wet track, so I think the micros, they tend to do a better job. We had the same situation where our micros were on track on a wet track, but it wasn't raining. So visually, I think that's one of the problems is when it does rain, they can't really see. You got the visor fogging up. There's a lot of different scenarios that go on while it's raining, but thankfully, for them, it wasn't raining. But yeah, it's able to avoid those standing waters, hydroplaning with the, barely over 200-pound go-kart together.
Exactly.
So that's definitely a challenge, but I think when it's not raining, it makes it a lot easier for these young drivers.
Mateus Orjuela, as I said, fastest driver all weekend. He flat walked away in the wet. Just an impressive young man. Also an impressive drive for Luis Umana. He had issue in the pre-final, started dead last, drove up from 15th to 2nd in the wet. Umana turned some really quick lap times. And back on the podium again. He was on the podium in January. Enzo Vidmontien from Quebec, Canada, coming home in the third position. Let's do a quick run through Briggs, the 206 category. Saturday, Colin Warren winning unchallenged. Of course, he was the dominant driver last year, won every session last year en route to the championship in 206 senior. Jack Copeland second, Frankie Barroso in third. On Sunday in the wet, as we said, it was the Briggs drivers that got rained on. Then they came back out after micro. Wet racetrack. And the rain really shook everything up, David. It was wild because only one driver decided to go out on wets, and that was Austin Morris. The guys from Comet Kart Sales put him on the reins. Dude, you're going to go out there and kick everybody's butt. Track didn't dry up fast enough. Austin just had a couple of spins early. He had one big spin that put him well back, and he was trying to dig his way forward. He was about a second and a half quicker than the leader, but had such a gap to come back on. That said, I don't know how Jack Copeland was as fast as he was on dries in the wet. I don't know if it was Rudy Ramsrup and Luke Chioviti at Ricer Racing. Chioviti had him dialed in because, dude, he was so fast. I could watch him roll into one. I can't believe how quick he was rolling in one. They had some kind of special setup on that thing. He was only about a second slower in full wet conditions. I couldn't believe it.
Staggered special match perfect.
That's it. They pulled a Harry Hogg on it. They did something. Zach Skolnick was pretty good too as well. He was in second. He was running with Ventresca Sabaris Racing, Terry Ventresca. He chased him all race long, but started to lose the gap through. Austin Morris actually did end up finishing in third spot. He, as I said, was about a second and a half quicker, but another spin late in the race put him further back as well.
So he was on wets but spinning out, and everybody was on dries not spinning out?
Well, you got to think that exactly same question I had in my mind, but you got to think knowing that he's on wets and knowing that he's trying to win, he's probably trying to roll more corner speed than he needed to, right? Even though you're on wets, you're still not hammering some of the corners. It's about placing yourself in the right spot. I wasn't able to follow him enough to see where he was in terms of what kind of lines he was taking, but yeah, it's I'm sure he got a ribbon pretty good from the boys at Comet for not winning that one.
Yeah, because
right?
his fast lap was 3 seconds slower than the quick lap of the race by Colin
Well,
Warren.
at the end it started to dry up a little bit, right?
Well, that has a lot to do with it. Yeah,
that does. Regardless, Colin Warren ended up winning the championship with his 2 victories and a second place finish. Copeland with that win on Sunday, finishing second overall in the championship. In the Briggs 206 Masters class, Eli Yanko, last year's champion in Briggs Masters, ends up with a great battle for the win with Dan Breitenstein, the local pilot. He ends up finishing second, Andre Duick in third. And then on Sunday, and again, in that wet race, all those drivers on dries. And Andre Duick was the impressive driver on the dries, putting good laps down. Absolutely flat dominated on the dries. 15-second win over Jorge Ruiz, who actually won the championship in the process, finishing second, and Dan Breitenstein in third. Ruiz wins the title narrowly over defending champion Eli Yanko by 25 points. David, there's your wrap-up, the race report from this particular event in Florida.
Got to have fun racing Briggs and dry tires on the wet track. That's got to be fun.
That'd be so much fun. I would love that. It would have been great. All right, Dave, let's cap things off. Let's jump forward and start looking at what's on the horizon for you and I. We've got some races to head to in March, a couple of weeks here at home after our trips to Homestead and Fontana, but we're back on the road soon. This is the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar presented by IAME USA. IAME USA is the importer and distributor of the hottest 2-cycle engine program in American karting, featuring the SSE 175cc gearbox, X30, KA100, and Swift engines, which can be found at club, regional, and national racing events from coast to coast. IAME USA's dedication to quality and customer service is second to none. IAME is also a proud supporter of programs such as the United States Pro Kart Series, WK Manufacturers Cup, F-Series Gear Up Challenge, and the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour, Winter Series, and Pro Kart Challenges. All right, let's have a look at our schedule, Dave. I was just thinking, I should get you to do a couple of those reads. Why am I always doing them?
Because you can pronounce things correctly. Your voice is better. You're the boss.
A couple of good. That's 3 good ones. That's good enough. Yeah, if I'm the boss, though, I could just make you do it.
It sounds better. So that trumps you. That trumps you trying to make me do it.
I think you developed a pretty good voice, David, to be honest with you.
Well, we could just have somebody read it and for us,
That's true. We could,
that's the other option. Yeah.
I like it. All right, David, let's talk about this. It's February 19th, Tuesday. We're 9 days away from getting on a plane and heading to LAX for the opening round of the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. It's the Winter Nationals, the third running of the Winter Nationals at Cal Speed Karting Center in Fontana, March 1, 2, 3. And, dude, we'll have a full live EKN coverage. Alicia Hodaf's going to be with us as well, social media queen. We're going to have things rocking. We'll take the coverage to a next level for this one. Are you excited about getting back to Cal Speed for what could be a massive Winter Nats?
As long as the weather is good. If it doesn't rain, I'll be happy. I'll be excited. But again, the rain racing provides some excitement, some different drama. So we'll see how everything unfolds there in Fontana.
Can I make one note on that? If it does rain, remember, you don't have to go outside with the camera because Todd McCall and Ken Johnson can be out in the wet.
It's true.
Right? We can be you can be in the booth. We can be rocking. I can come to you for some expert opinion on the commentary. We can let Todd and Ken slog it out in the wet.
I will warn you, if it does rain, you won't be able to see anything out of the booth.
Yeah. Tell me it doesn't fog up. What was it?
It just depends on the way the direction of the rain. And every time it rained, we couldn't see out of the booth, so we would just kind of there's something going on and da da da.
Oh man, really? Oh man, okay.
So we just need Mike Smith to manufacture an awning over the window, so that way the window doesn't get wet. And then we can see out of it.
We'll drop an email to Mike Smith.
I'm sure he's listening.
He will. You're right. All right, so the week after that, David's home for a couple of days. You'll be home Monday. You'll be home Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday night, you'll be back on the road. Challenge of the Americas, round number 2 at Tucson, Arizona, the Musselman Honda Circuit, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. Another EKN live show to listen to on, of course, the website, ecardinews.com/live. And it'll be Eric Brennan on the mic. There's a conflict. I'm actually at the IndyCar race at St. Petersburg, the Road to Indy event. I'll be there for that. Even Tim Chappie, who announced the first round of the challenge, can't be there either. So bringing in Eric Brennan, who is the voice for EKN at the WK Manufacturers Cup races. David, you get to work with Eric in California. Is he a burger guy? Like, is he a In-N-Out burger guy, you think?
Well, sometimes you got to bring in the young rookie, to take over the duties for the veterans who are getting old and can't quite hang where they're at. But, that's something we haven't done. Me and Eric haven't gone out to dinner yet.
Right.
We're typically WK weekends a little busy. And I don't eat. I eat later, and he typically goes out with the staff. So, we'll see. We'll probably get some Mexican food one night, and probably a good burger somewhere else. Obviously In-N-Out and
Crossroads.
Yeah, Crossroads. It is.
You know what? I don't know if Brennan's ready for the FTK crew. I want pics from the trailer.
All right.
All right. So our second hashtag dual weekend of the year at the end of March 29th, 30, 31. David's going to be at the second round of WK Manufacturers Cup. Of course, the first round Daytona back in December. But March 29, 30, 31, WK Manufacturers Cup Series at the GoPro Motorplex in Mooresville, North Carolina. David's got some hot spots for food there as well. And, of course, Eric Brennan, once again, will be on the mic for WKA. I will be in Texas, Denton, Texas, to be exact, just north of Dallas at NTK, North Texas Karters Raceway, for the opening round of the Texas Pro Kart Challenge. Really enjoyed myself with Gina and Mark French last year. David, another WKA round coming off what was a good Daytona. I'm sure you're looking forward to getting back to GoPro.
Yeah, always going to GoPro is fun and exciting. It'll probably rain there too, so I'm hoping not for another rain weekend. And
oh my God,
if it probably won't rain in Tucson, so I should be good there. But I'm guessing Cal Speed's going to rain and Morrisville going to rain, so I'm going to go 3 for 4 on the start of this year.
What I'm saying for Tucson is you might have like 28 degrees Fahrenheit in the morning when you get there.
You know what? I will take that because
will?
me, Shelby, and Eric will be up in our 2 second-story penthouse.
True.
Getting the sun beating in on us, which will be nice.
You're right. All right, let's wrap.
It was great. Hey, when everybody was freezing, it was great for us in there.
I loved it up there. I love that town. I can't wait. Hopefully there will be no conflicts next year, and I'll be able to get back on the mic for all 3 of the Challenge of the Americas events. I'm missing being there with the crew, and I look forward to joining them in April when we get out to Sonoma for the finale. I'll be back for that one. Let's wrap things up for the the SuperKarts USA Winter Series finale at Homestead. David, as we normally do to wrap things up, kind of looking at the Constructors' Championship breakdown, 10 different brands scoring wins in Homestead. Tony Kart with a big one. They got a couple of wins in the 206 categories, a couple of wins, of course, with Renato Jader-David as well in the X30 Master. Of course, Kai Sorensen with a win. They get 7 victories. Burrell with 4, Cosmic 2, along with Praga and Esprit. And 1 win each for Croc Promotion, Kart Republic, Illuminos, VLR, and FA Kart. Another good split, 10 different brands scoring wins to cap off the Winter Series.
Just to let you know that all 4 OTK brands scored a victory.
Again? Well, remember, Coda was just 1 each, though. That was the difference, right? Remember, Tony Kart had 1, Esprit had 1, FA had 1, and Cosmic had 1. This time, what do they get total? 7, 9... 10, 11, 12 wins total. Wow. So, yeah, pretty well. OTK country down in Florida, right?
It is. Well, it helps to have the headquarters there.
That's true enough. All right, folks, we're going to cap things off here again. The Winter Series, really just a great opportunity to see who the primary players probably were, especially when you think about the transition between essentially what was a parking lot race at Homestead to what is, as David had mentioned, a parking lot race at Cal Speed. A little different with the sealer down, elevation changes at Cal Speed as well. That's definitely going to play a role, is it not, David?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, folks, there you go. We're going to wrap things up. This has been episode number 41 of the EKN Debrief. Thanks to David for sitting in with me here as I gave my review of the final rounds of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series in Homestead. As we said, winter program done for SCUSA. They will look forward now, of course, to the Pro Tour, the 3-race Winter Nationals, Spring Nationals, Summer Nationals. They got the California Pro Kart Challenge kicking off in, I believe, late March as well. The Texas Pro Kart Challenge, as we said, kicking off. And again, in early to mid-April, the Great Lakes Pro Kart Challenge, SCUSA's a return to essentially what has been the home, or where really SCUSA grew up, where it developed in the Great Lakes regions with the Janowskis. Wrapping things up for the SCUSA Winter Series on behalf of David Cole, my name's Rob Howden. Bye for now.